Good morning, Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, now we are switching our conversation to something a little bit environmental this morning. And I am speaking with somebody that you would have gotten to know a little bit last year when he did a historic swim from Tobago to Trinidad. But today he's going to be speaking about something else that's happening within the space. And that is, of course, none other than Mr. John Procope. So good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And thanks again for having me on the show.
All right, great. So now one of the reasons why you did that swim was to raise some environmental awareness. And today you are here to speak about another part of environmental awareness and environmental issues, and that has to do with noise pollution.
That's correct.
Especially in the western end of Tobago.
Yes, particularly in Crown Point and the area that most people know as the Strip.
Yes.
Yes.
So tell us what's been going on there.
Well, I did raise concerns and try to raise awareness about the devastating impacts of climate change and overfishing and pollution on our ocean when I was doing the swim. And this is a topic that deals directly with another form of pollution and one that many people really don't recognize.
Yes.
But there is a clue in the main marketing thrust, the promotional phrase for Tobago that is being used to promote us all over the world. And that is that Tobago is clean, green, and serene.
Safe and serene, yes.
And we all know that Tobago is green. And we hope very much to keep the island as clean as possible. But when it comes to the serenity, if you notice, there's a sort of a shift and a separation between foreign tourists, foreign visitors to the island, and local tourists or regional tourists. So a lot of the local tourists who come to Tobago tend to stay on the western end predominantly. And mostly people coming over from Trinidad like to come to Tobago to relax, unwind, but also to party. So it's sort of like a party island vibe, especially in the western end, in Crown Point. But a lot of the foreign visitors who come from other countries, they tend to come because of what has been advertised to them on the foreign market, which is that Tobago is clean, green, and serene. So you find that a lot of the foreign visitors tend to seek out locations like Castara, for example, where they can sort of get the vibe that they've come seeking. And that is unfortunately, to a very large extent, compromised in the Crown Point area on the Strip, which is unofficially recognized as the party zone. The problem is that it's one thing to have party, and of course, you know, music is our culture, but noise is not our culture. And one of the things that Trinidad and Tobago should be respected for is that we are a country that is lawful and that provides fair laws to all of our citizens as well as our visitors. And so this brings me directly to the problem that we've been experiencing in Crown Point in and around the Strip for quite some time, which is noise pollution. And that's it in a nutshell.
Well, so what do you suggest, though, that should happen? Because, as you mentioned, the noise is a concern, but it's also part of the culture.
Yes.
It also caters to a demographic of visitors that come to our island.
Absolutely.
But it happens to be in a space where there's a lot of residents as well.
Yes.
So, well, how should we balance the situation so that we can still offer that bit of an experience to our visitors, but yet be respectful of the people that live there?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, because that is exactly what I'm here to discuss, the solution. And it's a fairly easy solution. It does require some support from the government, but in order to allow people who live in Crown Point, which is a residentially zoned area, it's not as if we're trying to battle against a different kind of zoning. It's not zoned for parties or events. It's zoned for recreation. So legally, the law of the land, which states that 65 decibels is the limit to which music can be played, is not respected at all in the Crown Point area. Then the thing is, all we need to do is assist the various bar owners and club owners who have establishments on the strip with soundproofing. Everywhere that people go in the world and they want to go and party and go to bars, etc., where loud music is played, soundproofing is a necessary feature because the residents in the area have a lawful right to enjoy their private property
And peace.
their private property peacefully. Yeah? And so when we make a call to the Crown Point police station, bless them, they try their best. They send out their patrols. The patrols ask the offending bars or clubs or cars, which are playing their music very loudly with their speaker systems and heavy bass, they ask them to turn the music down. And they turn the music down, and then the patrol leaves and they turn the music back up because there is no consequence. Now, if you go into the Crown Point police station and you look up on the notice board, you will see the Summary Offences Act. And this details all of the action that can be lawfully taken by police in order to preserve private citizens' right to enjoy their private property peacefully. And the police are allowed to fine people if they go and they ask that the music is to be turned down because somebody has called in with a complaint that this music is disturbing them at home. And they are allowed by law to warn the offenders and then fine the offenders. However, in Crown Point, the police do not fine the offenders because they believe that they do not have the authority to do so. And this is the crux of the issue, because in the station, it clearly says in black and white that they are allowed to do so. However, if you have a one-on-one conversation with one of the police officers at Crown Point Police Station, for example, they will also inform you that they do not have the necessary sound testing equipment in order to decipher whether or not the music is actually being played at a level that is higher than 65 decibels. And so this is like a little gap that you have in the law. So I have a suggestion, a very simple suggestion, that the EMA work with the police as they've done many times in the past. In fact, we were part of a noise pollution symposium a few years ago, and a lot of positive agreements were made, but unfortunately not much was done in the follow-up.
And interestingly, we see that conversation even popping up on the political platform because I think it was earlier this week, we heard from one of the parties in Trinidad speaking about the need to, whether it is a tightening, increase the penalties, fix that law or adjust something so that, you know, noise pollution could be dealt with, especially in residential areas. Absolutely.
That's a really good point, to fix the law, because the law is not the most sensible law. 65 decibels is really not that loud. So I can understand why people would want to disregard the law. I think that it needs to be looked at. I think that the decibel level could be raised. Okay, and then once it's raised, I think people will pay more attention, be more respectful to staying within those boundaries and abiding by the law. However, what I think needs to be done is a joint exercise, which is actually not that extensive because the area is very small, but a joint exercise nonetheless that happens between the Environmental Management Agency, the EMA, and the police in the various areas, so specifically Crown Point for the purpose of this conversation. And they go together to all of the establishments and they have a brief meeting with the owners and the management staff who are operating the particular bars or clubs, and they set a limit on the volume so that the DJs, the MCs, whoever is playing the music knows that this is the volume, the maximum volume that corresponds with the law. And so they are aware of the level at which they can legally play their music. If they want to play their music louder than that, I think that the government should step in and assist these operators in soundproofing their establishments so that they can play their music loudly, but at the same time, residents are not going to be disturbed. And there's another advantage to this. If the music is kept at a legal level, and if there is soundproofing in the establishments, then the crowd can still continue to go and enjoy their music. But now, instead of being on the strip and hearing music from this bar and music from that bar,
which becomes just noise after
just
a while.
a sound clash,
Yes.
which becomes just noise,
Yeah.
then you can actually enjoy the music of the establishment. So that actually improves the quality of the entertainment and the experience that is afforded.
Now, how do you soundproof a bar or something that has a little bit of an outside experience? Because, I mean, in the Caribbean, we like that outside experience.
Yes.
It's part of the culture. It's part of, what makes
Absolutely.
it special,
Absolutely. But here in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, we are supposed to provide law and order for all of our citizens and our visitors. So safety and law and order is obviously the first priority. When it comes to keeping an establishment that is open air, which is more conducive to the environment, as you say, that people want in the Caribbean, in Tobago, then that's very simple. Either you play your music at the loudest possible limit that is within the law. And there you go. It's a very simple exercise. I'll give you an example. If I'm driving and I make a U-turn where I'm not supposed to, even though I'm licensed and insured and doing my best to be as aware of other people on the road, I've still made a mistake. I've still disregarded the signs. And so I am fined by the police. That's fairly simple. If I'm breaking the law by playing my music louder than the legal limit, and I am causing disturbance, especially continual, chronic disturbance to residents in the area, then I can be warned, which is even more generous than what happens on the road, because you're not necessarily warned at all. It depends. But you can be warned, and then if you continue, then you will be fined. And therefore, people will learn that they must respect the law.
And that is something seriously that we need to consider.
Yes, and the thing is, it doesn't mean that you can't play the music. You just need to play it at
and then maybe when it's at a lower level, then we can actually have more conversations and more interactions with each other instead of having to shout at each other.
Exactly. And most of the time, people are at lounges and bars where they want to have conversation.
Right.
So really and truly, it just takes a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking and a little bit of consideration, and then the problem is solved for all intents and purposes.
Certainly.
And there's something I wanted to mention, that Crown Point is the first impression that Tobago gives to visitors, because most visitors come through the airport. And therefore, we have one chance to make a good first impression on people coming to Tobago. And so Crown Point needs to be clean, green and serene like the rest of the island.
Right.
And yes, we can enjoy the music and the festivities, but let's do so in a way that is fair to everybody.
And that's where we're going to have to leave this conversation. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Procope, for being
you.
here with us. Certainly, thank you for your continuous environmental advocacy.
Gracious.
And I know we'll be speaking again, and hopefully this message gets out and it could start at least the change in the thinking about how we deal with music and making sure we respect people around and create a wonderful experience for everybody to be around. So thank you again so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
And viewers, we had to go for a break, but we'll be back in just a couple minutes, so don't you go anywhere.
It's a brand